computer here. And and just double check and see how live we really are, and if it's in the right orientation. I think it is. Nope, it's not. So we're going to reorient it. For some reason I thought landscape mode, and it's not landscape mode. It's the other way.
Well, you need to flip.
Yeah, I need to flip. Needs to go this way.
Oh, okay.
And hi. I'm so glad that you guys, I hope you all are thoroughly entertained by this. Okay. I think we're good now, and hopefully you can hear me. If, hi Sue, if you all can give me some thumbs up, or feel free to type in the chat box. There you go, thanks. Hi Jennifer. Oh, this is sweet, I love it. Oh, this makes me very happy. Hi Linda. And the volume's good, you guys can give me a thumbs up if it's working out okay. Richard, can you hand me the mic belt? You think you tucked it inside the shelving? All right. And my husband, Richard, my trusty assistant for the moment, who I think is going to escape shortly. But we do have Eddie here, who you cannot see. Hi, Linda. Hey, Mike. Mike, you are so busy. Have to say, it's been amazing watching communities really all over the world kind of pull together for, the marginalized and other communities. And Mike is someone in Santa Fe who's been gathering things for the Pueblos to take food supplies, staple goods, things like that. And it's just really exciting. And I know the same is happening in the Houston community. So I'll just briefly introduce myself and get started. I'm Melissa Smith, and I've had the privilege of teaching with Sue at the Woodlands Yoga Studio. I don't even know, Sue. Maybe you could type in there how long it's been, but probably a good 8 or so years. It's good to see you too, Julie. And I feel really privileged and honored to be able to, got the tech part figured, thanks. Really privileged and honored to be spending this afternoon with you, and excited to share some restorative practice. I will be demonstrating just a little bit, getting you settled into the pose. Yeah, it's been years. Getting you settled into the pose, and for the most part, we'll just have a really lovely restorative afternoon together. Restorative yoga, as many of you know, is a long-held prop-supported class so that the body is supported in such a way that it feels a sense of ease rather than a really strong stretch sensation. You can adjust or modify the props in any way that you like that will give you a different experience. And I think that will be, that's really the beauty of this practice. As you dive a little bit deeper into this and settle, I would love to offer the opportunity for you to continuously move just a little bit. So as you are sort of, settling into a pose, and if for some reason aches, pains, things that are kind of creeping up on you that just don't feel right, or if the pose that I've offered to you, there's a different position or a different trajectory that your body would prefer to do, then feel free to move out and adjust as you need to. So I think that's really the offering that I have for you today, is that you just deeply listen and honor Your sound is quiet and your volume is 100%. So let me see what I can do about that. Let me see how I can adjust that. How is that? Is that a little bit better? You guys can type in the notes just a little bit to see if that adjusted the volume for you. I hope so. Mike, you want to give me a thumbs up if that was better? Yeah? Okay. So as we are experiencing class together today, it is my hope and my wish that you feel rest and renewed and restored. If you can find a comfortable setup for yourself, yeah, better, excellent. If you can find a comfortable setup for yourself, so you can see over here that I've set up my mat. I've got a couple of blankets nearby. Good, I'm glad it helped. A couple of blankets nearby and some towels. I'm going to show you before we get started some folds for the towels, and then you can just set it to the side. That way when we're transitioning, class is a little easier and you can just really relax. So I'll just move over here a little bit. So I've taken, now if you don't have these, it's all good. So it's not a worry. You can just use anything you like, a pillow, another blanket, whatever you like. So it's just an offering for you today. So I folded the towel in half, and then I folded the towel in half again. And you have a couple of options. You can simply take it just like this to place it behind your head, or if you need a little bit higher lift, you can fold it in half a little bit more. Eddie's had a lot of lying down today. Or you can take and make a little spa pillow. So for those of you who've taken restorative training with me in the woodlands have seen this before. So the fold side goes towards you, and you'll take the two outer ends and fold it towards you to make two triangles. Then I just flip it over and I take the two outer ends again, and then I've made a thicker triangle. I'll show it one more time just for kicks. So I folded it in half and then half again. Then the folded edge goes toward me. I take the top layer and I fold it over into two triangles. Then I flip it over and I take these two triangles, and then I have a spa rest. Then the spa rest can just be setting here just on the back of your mat for support. If, again, you prefer to have another head support, fantastic. You can just slip that little pillow underneath the head, or have the head just resting on the mat if you like. I've got a washcloth handy, so I'm going to have that close to my head. So if I would like eye support at any point, then that's a perfect way to do that. Or if you have an eye pillow, you can also use that. I've taken two blankets. And if you brought a pillow, you could also put a pillow here and wrap the blanket around it to make it more firm. So it's really a substitute for a bolster. So if you have a bolster, you can use that, or I'm just going to fold two blankets. So I took a blanket and folded it in half and half again. And then I want it more of a rectangular, so it mimics the shape of a bolster. And then I just stack two together. That's it. Easy. So in a little while, our last pose today will be a prone position. And if you were in my restorative and sustainable yoga group, we actually did a little bit of prone this last week. So for those of you who watched that, this is a little bit of a review. So I fold a towel in half, and then I take the two sides and I roll to meet to the middle, so it makes a channel. And then I flip it over, just like that. And what happens is you have a little space there, and it will be a head cradle for you when we do prone. You can just cross your hands and let your hands be a head cradle. So really, it's up to you, and you can also take any other shavasana that you prefer. So I'm just going to offer that perhaps that you start in, still can't hear me a little bit. Is that a little bit better? I hope so. Can give me a thumbs up if that's better. And I'm going to kick the volume all the way up and see if that is more supportive. So for here, and I'll just double check the mic on this as well. Yeah. Perfect. All right. I'm guessing that's a thumbs up. Excellent. So here, find a comfortable way to be. So you can either be in constructive rest position, or which is lying on the back, soles of the feet on the floor, or find Shavasana, or you can simply sit for a moment, and we'll just take a little bit of breathing together. So as you find a way that feels right for you and supportive, allow your shoulders to soften around the ears and allow the eyes to softly close. And maybe a big exhale is in order. I don't know what your week is like, if the days have sort of blended one into the other, or if you've had quite a bit of structure. So just noticing and noticing what's going on with the body at this moment. Reading to you from David White's Consolations on Beauty. He says, beauty is the harvest of presence, the evanescent moment of seeing or hearing on the outside what already lives far inside of us. The eyes, the ears, or the imagination suddenly become a bridge between here and there, between then and now, and between inside and outside. Beauty is the conversation between what we think is happening outside in the world and what is just about to occur far inside of this. Beauty is not an achieved state of both deep attention, but it's also self-forgetting. The self-forgetting of seeing, hearing, smelling, or touching that erases our separation, our distance, and our fear of one another. Beauty invites us through entrancement to that fearful frontier between what we think makes us and what we think makes the world. As your eyes are softly closed or you're finding a gaze, can you just for one moment picture something you find beautiful? For me, in Santa Fe, it's the mountains. Sometimes it's my backyard. Sometimes it's just simply looking over at my child. Something that you truly find beautiful. And we're not talking necessarily outer beauty. It's just what really rings true for a sense of awe, a sense of presence. Once you have that in your heart and in your mind, begin to notice what you're sensing in the body as you reflect on that beauty. As you reflect on the beauty, do the shoulders drop? Maybe the corners of the mouth turns upward. Maybe the space between the eyebrows soften. Or maybe there's a warmth around the heart, almost a sense of delight. And then allowing yourself to look just a little deeper in as you're noticing these sensations in the body, maybe a little more easeful, noticing what emotion it evokes. Sometimes beauty can also evoke a sense of sadness or a longing. Oftentimes beauty can evoke a sense of contentedness, a peace, maybe even an innate joy. And then going just a little deeper, noticing where that emotion resides in your body. Right now I feel it just around my chest and my heart, and I feel also a softness around my face. Maybe your whole body softens. Or even the opposite, it could evoke a sense of excitement and alertness. Just notice. Wherever you are in your breathing pattern, let's exhale deeply here. And breathe in together through the tip of the nose. Breathing in. And gently exhaling. And again, as you breathe, can you breathe with a sense of filling the entire torso with breath as opposed to just a sagittal movement? So there's an expansive quality. And as you exhale, a sense of softness, no rush, no hurry. Take that breath just a few more times, gently in and gently out. As your intention is set on this form of beauty that brings you whatever the emotion that it evokes, for me, that sense of contentedness. Can you imagine that surrounding your mat and being the overarching intention for your practice today? A little glimmer of beauty amongst the unknown, amongst each of our individual circumstances. And as you feel ready, whether you're lying down already or if you are seated, just begin some subtle movements. So I'm noticing some tension in the shoulders, so I'm just going to lift and lower. If you're on the ground, you could begin some movement through the pelvis. So just simply moving in such a way that it feels inviting for your body and easeful. It might be a bigger stretch or a larger movement. It could even be standing up if that feels appropriate for you. And I'm just going to gently make my way back toward the mat. And as I do that, on your mat, you'll find, if you'll join me, your two bolsters, or one bolster or two blankets stacked one on top of the other so that they're lengthwise. And then you'll just simply come into that constructive rest position. I take the makeshift bolster or blankets and snuggle it just right up close to the back of the thighs and the buttock. And I'll lower myself down into constructive rest, taking my head support. And if you've chosen to make that little cradle or nestle of a head support, then your head just kind of fits right into it. And you can tuck the tail of the towel in, or whatever you've got, nestle it up to the top of your shoulders. Allow your arms to come outside of the body and walk the legs a little further than you normally would, so that the legs are longer than a normal bridge position. So you just walk them a little bit further out. As the arms settle down into the ground, you might notice there's a sweet spot or a position of the arms where the head of the arm bone can rest. And then just begin a really subtle tap of the toes in the mat. So as I tap, you'll notice my body just begins to move a little bit. And as I tap, you might begin to feel sensations through the front of the shin. So just notice what that feels like. You could also change the tap to a push. And so as I push into the mat, you can see my head just moving gently up and down. So the movement is super subtle, and it's just intended to alert the legs of a little bit of movement. So it could either be a tap or a push that's rocking the body. And notice perhaps what you're starting to feel or notice in the back body. You might feel the pelvis. And I noticed, Tiffany, you were with us, and you can always put a support underneath the sacrum if that sacrum starts to feel some discomfort. And then take a moment to settle into stillness and notice what you feel on the back side of your body. Maybe there's a little rippling sensation or a bubbling. I can feel my feet a little more alive and a little more warm. Gently press down with your left foot and allow the right leg to draw in toward the chest. And notice as you do that, there'll be a point in which the pelvis begins to curl toward the nose and the lower back presses. And then begin some gentle circles so you can move any direction that feels right for you as you rotate one leg in and around. You can make a figure 8 if that feels nice. You can take just a circular motion. You could move the leg up and down, around. The key is just to find the movement to be slow and meaningful as opposed to quick and abrupt. And exploring deeper into the hip socket. So you're just kind of feeling what that range of motion feels like today. And without the use of the arms, we're using really whatever our own body's range of motion is. And then one more breath or one more turn and circle with the breath. And then gently allow that leg to come down back to that variation of constructive rest. Notice the aliveness in the leg that you just moved. And then gently let the foot roll out to the side so it's like a half Baddha Konasana. And then let it roll back in. Let it roll out. And then let it roll back in. So it's the same leg, and I'm just rolling it out and in. And notice there'll be a point in which one hip kind of tugs on the other. And it's okay. You can let your hips move as you wish, as you just roll one leg out and one leg in. Good. And then you'll let the leg just settle back into the center and pause. You'll curl both arms around your body as if you're giving yourself a big hug, taking one arm over the other, and then just a gentle side-to-side movement here. So as I move the elbows toward one side and then the other, can you notice the scapula or the bones in the back spread apart? And as you twist, can you feel the torsion and the movement of the twist all the way down into the hips? My head is steady and cradled here, but I could actually let my head turn with my arms if that feels better for you. And the movement is minute and slow. And as you feel settled with that, you can just release the arms back down and just pause and notice. Take a breath in for nothing. And a complete exhale. One more. And let that go. We'll gently push down with the other foot and then take the other knee in and then circle it around. So you could take a figure 8, or you could take a more rounded circle in and around. So just take a moment to really notice, is there some interesting areas? Is there an area that feels maybe a little more tense or have a little more rigidity, lack of smoothness? Or is there an area that feels really easy? You can even notice if the right or the left leg feels more easeful than another. And maybe you decide you'd like to lift and straighten and move or wiggle the toes a little bit. So however you'd like to move that leg, just notice. Take another couple of breaths there with the movement. And again, it's slow and fluid, continuous and unforced. And it's more intuitive than it is instructive. So if you're finding another movement that serves your body best, then continue to do that. I'll gently place my foot back down onto the mat, and then I'll roll that same leg in and out. So here, I'm just rolling to the knife edge of the foot, and the knee rolls out and rolls back in. Do that a couple of times. Notice again what you're sensing in the upper body, all the way down into the pelvis. Hopefully you still have another blanket or a towel handy. And if you brought that, I think we put in the notes to have either a bag of rice or a sandbag. So if you'd like to place that across the pelvis in our restorative pose, you can. I'm going to nestle these blankets closely up to my buttock, then allow my feet to roll out to the side. So this is a variation of Baddha Konasana. Rather than bringing my heels quite close to my body, I've got them a little further out today. So you can adjust and move. I like having two blankets here because if it feels like too much, I can actually shift the top blanket further away from me and have less support, or I could pull it closer in and have more support. So they can stagger one another. Here, you might consider crossing the arms one more time, the opposite direction, and take a little rotation. And noticing what the spine feels like in relationship to that external rotation of the legs. When you feel ready, you can settle the arms out anywhere away from the body. And if you like, sandbag on the pelvis. And you could even take an extra blanket to support the body. You also have close to your head a washcloth for the eye covering, so you could take that. So as we settle here in Supta Baddha Konasana, which is just basically butterfly pose, cobbler's pose, really allow yourself to simply be there. At any time, if movement feels delicious for you, consider adding a little movement and then settling back to stillness. Otherwise, we'll be here just a few minutes together. So as you settle and rest, what can you allow? What can you soften? If the mind is quite active, consider either visualizing that image of beauty or allow yourself to simply follow your breath. Breathing in and breathing out. Remaining still, allow your attention to come back to the breathing and your feet. You might lightly press the feet together and notice the knees rise just a little, and then release that. Do that a few more times, pressing the feet together, knees rise, and then release. And once more. And the next time, you can gently press one foot into the floor to lift the other and place the sole of the foot on the floor, and the opposite. Begin to, once again, fan open one side and then slowly let the other knees, like a windshield wiper, and then go the other direction. So it's a very, very gentle torsion, so no forcing, just simply rocking from one side and then rocking to the other side. So letting the knees gently move. And noticing how the inner groin feels, noticing how the feet feel by really allowing them to press and roll, and the arms to be relatively calm. So I just noticed I was using some shoulder movement to make it happen. So you might notice if you can soften the tops and the upper edges of the shoulders. Then settling back into the center, pause in stillness for a moment. Lifting the toes once again, rocking the weight to the heels, push through the heels and notice the pelvic curl toward the pubic bone. Slowly lower the feet by pressing the ball of the foot and then the toes. Notice the pelvis come back to neutral. Do that again. Peel the toes off, flex the foot, push down with your heels at the same time, a homologous push. And then slowly lower the feet back down. So we're moving our pelvic rocking, but we're doing it from the feet and feeling some movement all the way through the legs. So just noticing what that is like and the quality of your movement and your breath. And then this next time, we'll let the feet settle back down, and you'll push down in such a way and take a hold of your blankets. And think for a moment before you move the blanket underneath you for supported bridge. Do I want my pelvis higher or lower today? Remembering that height really isn't necessarily key here. Resting the hips and giving it a little bit of elevation so the blood flow moves toward the head would be more of the intent. So what is it I want? What is it that I need? I'm going to walk my feet a little closer toward me, push both feet down, and glide my support underneath my pelvis. And I like the idea of I've got that little stair step again, so I have a little bit of different level of support. Or if it feels more appropriate for you, you can just simply release altogether and just stay in constructive rest. If you have another blanket handy, I've got a towel right here nearby, so I'm going to take my towel. I'm going to press one foot into the floor, bring my knee in, and then my other foot. I'm going to wrap the towel around and pull in between my legs. So I'm just kind of tucking it, and then I'll put my feet back down. So I'm creating a little bit of a secureness. Now, if your blanket is longer, it's going to be a lot easier because then you can take the handles or the tails of the towel and kind of tuck it underneath the buttock. But this feels sufficient for me today, just to keep my legs quiet and still. If at any time you prefer to elongate the legs and take them away from the body and feel a different sensation, just know that that will exaggerate the lumbar curve. So depending upon what you need would be best. So just listening to the body. And as you settle into supported bridge pose, allow the breath to really be the barometer of your sensations. So as you're breathing in and breathing out, what am I noticing about my body? What feels the most amount of ease? And at any time, you could simply go back to any other restorative pose that feels best for you at this time. take a moment to simply allow and breathe and be. We'll be here quietly together around 3 or 4 more minutes, settling in, reflecting on beauty or breath. Gentle attention and awareness right on the feet. Notice their stability against the earth. Then let your mind and attention move all the way up the legs, down through the pelvis. Notice anything happening in the pelvis. Following the flow of blood toward the heart, toward the head. Noticing how you feel now compared to when we began. The shoulders feel softer, the body more or less alert. Gently here, we'll push down through the feet, adjusting so that the support can slide once again just beyond the buttock, so the lower back can connect. Maybe a little bit of movement here, either side to side or pelvic clocking forward and around. Then consider a little movement of the arms. So you could take a little angel-like wings, so gliding the hands along the sides of the body, or you can take a little hug if that felt really generous to you when we did that earlier. I'll offer an option for you here of just simply extending the legs, moving the blanket or towel, extending the legs in Shavasana. Or if you'd like to explore prone Shavasana today, and then at any time you could roll out, then I'll show or demonstrate that option for you. So I'll place my soles of the feet on the floor again. You push them in such a way that I'm rolling or moving the hips over first. When I roll to my side, let my eyes come to the floor and gently press the body up. You can keep the support just here on the two blankets or a bolster, and we'll take our pelvis across on that for the prone Shavasana. I'm switching sides of my mat so that I'm going to use actually this head support I created earlier for my ankles. This will come underneath the pelvis. And then I folded the towel before we started and showed you a different fold. I opened it up, rolled it in, so it looks like two long rolls, and then flip it over. And as I flip it over, then I have a cradle for my head. So here I'll adjust a little bit further down so I can be all on the screen here. So as I come on to this, I'm going to stagger just a little bit because it feels a little bit high for me today. And come across. I've got my head support here, and my arms can be anywhere along here that feels appropriate or feels good for you today. If instead you'd like to use this towel and place it just underneath the collarbone or right around the collarbone, and then support the head, and then just rest. If being on the belly isn't what you need today, you can take a Shavasana that feels just right for you. So give yourself a moment here to just simply settle in. This is a very easy recap. I just simply flipped over, can use this under the breastbone or for head support, and then I use my other head support for ankles. As your body melts into the support, notice any ease or softness that it's creating in the lumbar spine. Can you take another moment to adjust the shoulders or the arms in such a way that they feel the greatest amount of ease as well? In a prone position, it's quietening, it's softening. It's just simply allowing the entire body to come down a little bit more. So from a more alertive position, an open position of the blood moving toward the heart, we've reversed that and we're stimulating a little bit in digestion and creating a little bit more stimulation all through the belly and the pelvic organs. And just resting. We'll be here quietly together for about another 5 minutes. What can you soften? What can you allow? Focusing on either breath or beauty. either remaining here in prone shavasana or finding another shavasana, maybe your favorite. Whether you're in your living room right now and your couch is nearby, you could put legs up the couch. You can simply stay in prone shavasana. If you would like to come to shavasana on your back or supine, in a supine position, you would just gently press back either toward child's pose or roll to the side and come all the way back and over. So just be in such a way that as you rise, that it's a minimal amount of stimulation as possible. And then from here, I'll give you an option for shavasana if you like. So this option takes those 2 blankets and simply puts them now, instead of stacked one on top of the other, you'll just put them side by side. You'll find another blanket, if you have one, nearby. And I could take a tuck in. So I'm just simply going to tuck it around my legs and tuck it in. And if you have a bolster, it could be legs on the bolster as well. And as I lower my body back down, I've got that head support already there and available to me. And these 2 blankets are quite close to the buttock. What that does, it takes the flesh and moves it slightly forward and takes a little bit of the lumbar curve out. So if that sounds enticing to you, you can take that. If you've got that bag of rice or a sandbag right across the pelvis, and then finding the sweet spot for your arms, however that is for you. It could be fully extended, it could be closer to the body, hands on the belly. So finding that sweet spot for shavasana that is the most nourishing for you and your body. As we are here in our resting position, just reading a little bit more to you from David White. Beauty is almost always found in symmetries, intriguing asymmetries as well. They're seen out in creation, the wings of a moth, the airy sky, the solid earth, the restful and focused eyes of a loving face in which we see our own self reflected. The symmetry, therefore, is the bringing together of the inner and outer recognition, the far horizon of otherness, seen in that face to the deep inner horizon, that it is your own being. Beauty is the inner and the outer complexion living in one face. As your heart and attention lightly rest on the breath, can you continue to picture the beauty that is not only outward, but it is inward? Notice the softness in your body, the tempo of the pulse, of the movement of the cells inside, the magnificence that is you. That is absolutely you. We'll be still and quiet here together the last few minutes of Shavasana as you just simply allow. Allow yourself to continue to remain still. If Shavasana and the length of time to be here would serve you better by just simply closing your device and staying here, I highly recommend it. So taking that, whatever it is that you need from this practice, and making it your own. Reading to you this last bit from David Whyte's Beauty. Beauty especially occurs in the meeting of time with the timeless, the passing moment framed by what has happened and what is about to occur. The scattering of the first spring apple blossoms, the turning and the spiraling light of a curled leaf, and the falling light, the soothing and the smoothing of white, sun-filled sheets by careful hands, setting them to the air on a line, the broad expanse of cotton filled by the breeze only for the moment, these sheets sailing into the dryness, billowing toward a future that is always beckoning, always just beyond us. Beauty is the harvest of presence. What a remarkable thought, that by recognizing and being aware of beauty, we are harvesting presence in the present moment. If you haven't turned me off already and stay in Shavasana, then consider some movement. As you begin some gentle movement here, notice what would nourish you the very most. So maybe it means moving your extremities first, hands or feet. There's a sense of awareness as you move from your feet and your hands to larger parts of the body, larger joints, shoulders, knees, hips. And take your time to create a little more movement, maybe a little bit larger. Consider moving toward an upright position if you are ready. The simplicity of what David Whyte writes about using everyday words, it feels so relevant at this moment. We are taking what is right inside our home and our lives and noticing, I hope, noticing things that we haven't noticed before. Maybe it's the light, because you're there at different times that maybe you weren't previously. Or maybe life is quite different for you. It's busy, it's chaotic. I love what Sue posted today, is that we are all in the same storm, but our boats are completely different. But sharing in this practice with you is just a little glimpse of how close we really are. And that is an honor. So thank you all for taking time to join today. And it is truly a gift. And just extending my thanks and gratitude for the entire community at the Woodlands Yoga Studio. They have incredible teachers. So if you have not had an opportunity to share in some of their practices, they're phenomenal. So they're on the Facebook page, as well as Sue is posting on YouTube. So I believe she will be posting this there. I've also put on the homepage there the PayPal link to donate. And if you have the ability to do that, Your contributions are what makes that studio run. And I love how every community is coming together to really band for these small businesses and how vital it is for us to share. I saw a beautiful clip of these kids, and someone said, well, if you run to the middle, you can have all of everything. And so all of the kids joined hands and ran to the middle and then shared rather than taking it for themselves. And that's what it reminds me of, this community that Sue's created and so many other beautiful yoga studios. So if you enjoyed practice today, I would encourage you to put a little note in the comments. If you are watching this on replay, you can put #replay as well so that we have an idea. You can always join me. I think I put my information on the homepage there, so you can join me there as well. I love y'all. Thanks for making the time. It's really been a beautiful experience. So, namaste.